Good evening, guys and girls and everything in between. I'm bringing you another reassembly video. I'm looking into tournaments and I'm just trying out a few new things. So, alright, I suppose zeroth things first. I'm trying a new recording method. I've got a new encoder, which means that basically the file sizes are much smaller on my end. It makes it much easier to record large files, and that might be important depending on the tournament size, but there is a bit of loss of frame rate because of that. So if you do see frame rate drops and you think that's a problem, let me know and we might be able to fix it, and I can go back to the old method if needs be. I'm also interested on how the colors turn out, things like that. Yeah, so I'm thinking of running some more tournaments. The most interesting thing, I think, due to the new... Well, there was a patch for reassembly, and it added asteroids. Asteroids and, if you're looking at, plants. Asteroid, plants, and resources. So, they're not 100% working, as you can see, there's a ship stuck in a wall there, inside the asteroid, but most of the time they work. There are also resource pockets around, and if you see a ship kill another ship, they will spawn a bunch of resources, which other ships can pick up. I think I've got them turned on. Yeah, there you see. And that means that ships with factories can produce more ships. And then you get some sort of crazy endless warfare going on, which I think is really cool. So, for the new tournaments, there's a few options of what we can do. I'm pretty much... I think I'm going to play with asteroids. I think that's a really interesting thing. For the most part, the AI seems really good at avoiding asteroids and shooting missiles in between gaps and all sorts of cool things like that. So I think it'll be great to see how the asteroids affect battles. Now, I haven't formalized the rules for the tournament yet. That's kind of why I'm doing this video, is I want to know what people want out of the tournament. I, of course, reserve full rights to do whatever I end up thinking is best for the tournament, but this is just to sort of get a gauge of what people are interested in. I'm planning on... Well, most likely, I'm going to have less asteroids than this, and they'll probably be a bit smaller. So I'm aiming for smallish asteroids, which people will fight around, but won't generally spawn in or get stuck in. I'll have the precise details when I've tested it out a bit more and I've figured out what's a good number. So when I put up the actual announcement video, you'll see that. Okay, so there are several possible tournaments that I could run. First of all would be 2v2 dreadnoughts. So each fleet entry gets precisely 2 8,000 point ships. It'd be like 7,000 to 8,000, but most people will send in an 8,000 point ship. Or close enough, and that's fine. So it'll just be 2 big ships, and I'm hoping that people will build them to sort of support each other and play around. That would be with resources turned off. While past me is choking himself to death, I should just say that I'm going to run 2 of these tournaments, not 1, so best 2 will win. Excuse me there, I had a bit of a coughing fit. So the next option would be a carrier plus fleet sort of a battle. So this would be 1 big carrier ship and then a lot of little fighters and corvettes and frigates and micro ships and things like that. I think this would be a lot of fun because we could turn resources on, and then we could have the ships, engage in lots of little skirmishes, and then they'll rebuild more and more fighters, and basically the matches will go until the capital ships are dead. And I think that again would be quite cool. And then so you could have some little ships designed to intercept other little ships, and you have some bombers and some fighters and all sorts of cool things going on. So I think there's a lot of things that could happen there. There is another option with this, in that I could spawn in the fleets and then delete all of the fighters and turn resources on. So this means that just the capital ships are running around, and the capital ships would go and pick up resources and build all the fighters. So I can go into the editor mode like this, you see, and just select things. And delete them. Where's my mouse gone? There we go. And as you can see, the ship just vanishes. So I could do that to all of the fighters, and then we just have the... basically, it's what the ships can build, and your 1 fleet to go in. I'm not 100% sure on how the blueprints work, but it seems to be that the ships can build anything in the fleet that's submitted with them. So, like, in this Deep Space Driller fleet, I got one big ship, most of these little missile things, and a couple of these ones with factories. There also have variants of these without factories in the campaign fleet, but they won't build them because they're not in the tournament fleet, which I think is sort of what you would expect. Yeah, so that would be why I'd be deleting the fighters. They have to be in there in order for the ship to know to build them, but then they wouldn't be built. Yeah, it's a bit silly. But, so yeah, carriers could be fun. The next option that we've got is a Dreadnought plus a fleet. So that'd be like one 8,000 point ship, and then another 8,000 points to be spent on ships less than a certain point limit. So you'd have one big ship and a bunch of little escorts. That could also be fun. Nothing much particularly special there. I could also do an anything goes resources tournament. So it'd be like no spinners and no other rules, and it's just to see how influential the resources are, and how influential the resources are, and who can make use of that the best. That's kind of important, or at least I think it's important for a tournament like that to be held, because we haven't had one of them before, so nobody really knows what's good in a tournament where there are resources. So that could be quite interesting. And then the final option, which is might be my favourite, but also might be the hardest to actually get to work, would be a mod showcase tournament, also known as the What Does It Actually Take to Kill Faction 4 tournament. So the general idea of that one would be I would find... I'd go through the workshop, find a bunch of mods which look reasonable, so not overpowered, and not underpowered, but of a reasonable level of power, and then you'd be able to submit a fleet from anything from that list, including the default factions. Now keep in mind that there is quite a bit of variance in the power of the default factions. We have Faction 4 and we also have Faction 3, so I probably won't be letting in any custom factions which are as powerful as Faction 4, or anything which is as weak as Faction 3, but anything in between that's probably fine. Oh yeah, and another thing is that the developer of Reassembly seems to have gotten broadsides to work. All of my broadsiding ships after this patch just seem to function. I'm so happy. Like, they'll aim ahead, they'll shoot, they'll broadside things. And that's not something which has happened before. I don't know if that's actually a new function, or if it's just the ships getting confused by the asteroids, but they seem to know exactly how to use broadside guns. So yeah, keep that in mind. That's really cool. Okay. So, what, showcase tournament? Yeah. So, the asteroids, I think, are going to be important. I really like the asteroids, so I'm going to be including them. Some things that you probably need to know. Asteroids are randomized each battle, but they're all of the same type. So, when you're playing through Reassembly, you see some of these square and triangle asteroids, you see some hexagon asteroids, and some octagon asteroids, and all sorts of different asteroids. Well, when asteroids spawn in the tournament mode, they're all of the same type, but the type varies between matches. So that might be interesting to know. The controls that I have over these, in fact, I'm just going to quit out of this and go in here. This is the controls that I have over these. I can change the number of blocks an asteroid takes up, and the amount of space that is filled by asteroids. So, some asteroid blocks are much larger than others. So the size of asteroids will always have a bit of variance. You'll get some matches which have asteroids with small blocks, little triangles, and you get these ones on the other end, which have huge blocks. So even though the block count could be set low, they end up taking quite a bit of space. Yeah, so I'll be fiddling around with that and trying to find a couple of setups that just don't suck. And I'll let people know with the actual announcement. Again, this is the pre-announcement video. So, brackets and formatting. As always, I'm going to reserve the right to change the formatting and the brackets if we do pools or brackets, or if we do knockouts or pools beforehand. That I'm just going to sort of wing that. It really depends on just how many submissions I get. The last video was an hour and a half, and I think that's kind of pushing it for length, even though it got a lot of watches, and good watch time, according to my analytics. It just felt too long for me. So, if we don't get very many submissions, then we can do more things. We can run pools. If we get a good number of submissions, then I can... do brackets or sub pools, so I could have like half the fleets against half the other fleets, and then split them up, play the winners against each other, and do fancy things like that. Again, it really depends on who submits what, and without that information, I don't really know what the best arrangement for brackets will be. Yeah. Another cool thing with this is that you can vary the plants. The plants can be on either blue, green, pink, or spiky. As far as I know, that doesn't really have much of an effect. Obviously, spiky plants will kill everything, but blue, green, and pink all seem to do about the same thing. Just that, yeah, spiky plants are spiky. So, you can also vote on what color of plants you want. Plants spawn resources if it's a resource tournament, which is neat. Might come in handy, I guess. I don't know. But otherwise, we can have blue, green, or pink. Or a mixture of the 2, 3, as we go. Yeah, so this is just the pre-announcement video. Let me know if it works, let me know if the encoding's fine. As you can see, yeah, I'm just sort of noticing that when we have a fleet with a lot of missiles, spiky plants here and my Terrans have quite a few missiles, and my farmer faction have an awful lot of missiles. It does start to lag a little bit, so I might have to go back to the old recording, which it's okay, it just eats up a lot more hard drive space. Yeah, so yeah, give me your thoughts on this video in general and reassembly tournaments, and we'll see what comes of it. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you soon. Come on, yeah. Stupid Terran armor. Would have thought that missile did a bit more than it did. Alright, GG, guys.